Tony, man, appreciate you coming on, man. And September 17th, you're going to be back in the cage. It is a 3-month turnaround, a little bit over 3 months. It's the fastest of your UFC career, so you must be excited about that. You know what I mean? It's always good to get back-to-back fights real quick. After the last fight, was your mind, immediately getting back to the inside the cage because the fight was so short?
Yeah, it was pretty much like that. That also and also just from the beginning of the year, I look forward to having more than two a year because that's usually how it's been with my UFC career so far. So, but the fact that it was so short, kind of made it. It almost felt like I haven't fought yet. Which I'm grateful that's the case. Anytime you can go in there against another skilled athlete and come out unharmed for one is that's something to be grateful for, and I'm just excited that I was able to do that, and then so after that, it's kind of one of those things where yeah, I'd like to get in there pretty soon. I'm not beat up. I let my body rest a little bit from the intensity of the training, but still train pretty normal. I took a little break, but I feel like I haven't lost anything from the last my last training camp. I feel like I'm just building on it. So I'm the best I've ever been right now. So
Yeah, building the skill set and also, you build the bank account, which is very important.
yeah,
Now,
that
yeah. Without
that
damage, you build your bank account. That's the best life for a fighter, right?
absolutely. If I could have got a bonus in the last fight, though, that would have been. But I'm just great. Like I said, I'm grateful that everything worked out how it did. No complaints. So just
You said after the last fight, you're like, man, I want to fight a striker, and then they pitted you against Javid Basharat, and he's a new guy to the organization, but a striker. When they came with this offer, did it confuse you a little bit? Because you're a six fights deep into your UFC career. You figure maybe they would shoot you a veteran or somebody.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it did confuse me a little bit. I was looking to fight somebody that, like I said, I've got six fights now, and kind of looking to fight somebody with as much almost like veteran like experience. Even though I haven't, been haven't fought for a long amount of time as a professional, I have a lot of fights, so that's something. I guess technically I'm still considered a veteran. So I wanted someone that was going to give me make me have to fight a complete fight. I don't want to go in there and only rely on one thing. I want to have to fight completely so I can show everything. So, but I thought it was going to be someone that already had a little more UFC experience. But either way, it doesn't matter. He's a tough opponent, and he's a good striker, and that's also going to make me do the same, fight a complete fight. And he also, from what I've seen, is a pretty decent grappler too. So it sounds good to me. I get to do a little bit of everything, and I'm excited to. He's undefeated, so that also it makes me a little more excited because everybody wants to be the one to be someone's first loss. Especially someone that's really good. So that's motivation as well.
Not undefeated, but your last opponent, he had never been finished, and you went in there and took him out in, what was it, 68 seconds. Was that fight somewhat bittersweet? You get the finish in 68 seconds, and you get a highlight reel. It's beautiful. You get paid, but at the same time, you've prepared this and that and that and this, and you really didn't get to implement any of it.
That's exactly what it's like. It was. I'm at the end of the day, I'm super excited. Anytime you go in there, like I said, get over with quick and get out of there, and not be harmed is great. But I did expect to do. I wanted a little bit of everything. I knew that he's a good grappler as well, and he has good jiu-jitsu. I wanted to, show my ground and pound, my striking, everything that I needed to do. And I expected a little more fight. Honestly, I expected a finish that was similar, but I thought it would be a longer fight. I thought maybe in the second round, but it just happened. I threw the right shot at the right time, and it landed, and it was over.
Yeah, and they always say don't predict the first round or early finish. When your mind is at finishing later in the fight, that might
Mm-hmm.
actually come earlier, and it did for you, man.
Yeah, that's usually how I try to. I always consider myself the longer the fight goes, the better off it is in my odds, and so I know I can keep the same pace. So I can keep that pace the whole time, but when you don't have to, that's even better.
Yeah. And you come from the Contender Series. It seems like a lot of Contender Series guys are fighting other Contender Series guys more and more and more. It's that show has made a huge impact on the promotion, man. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely brought a lot of new people that like before I was on the Contender Series, most of the people that the promotions I fought for and things like that, they just kind of got signed from having titles, just a straight signing, and which I guess is like a longer process because from what I understood, when they would just sign someone, most time it'd be short notice fight or something like that, a last minute pull in kind of fight, but you know, and that's kind of how I originally expected my kind of like my career to be with UFC. But um, having that opportunity to kind of come in against another, almost like it's almost like you have your regional level fights, and then contender series is just above that. So that one step ahead. So just getting that opportunity to be right there and almost essentially experience a UFC debut because now that it's at the apex, that's what a lot of it's like. So they essentially get that. So that's definitely a good experience to have, and you see a lot of people, talented athletes coming up and making it, and it's from what I understand, it's just going to keep funneling good fighters through.
Yeah, definitely. You're definitely right about giving a shot to fighters earlier in their career rather than having to do like a 6 fight run at a local regional promotion and winning the belt. That could be very taxing on
That
you.
actually, I really appreciate that I kind of had to do that, and then I got the piece of I got to do a little bit of both. I got the best of both worlds, and I'm glad that I actually got to do that because at the end of the day, you see some of these people, and if they get signed too early to the UFC, they could get 2 really hard fights and be done. They've seen all they've seen, but when you've had experience and you've lost a couple, and you know what it's like to lose 2 straight and then win more, it's easier to be able to adapt to that because if someone's first time losing is on the big stage, they could just crumble. They've never seen themselves lose outside of a big stage. So that experience that I got, I am appreciative of that. So I'm glad I got to do both sides of it. But I do think that's kind of like the old school hard way. But I appreciate that. That definitely builds some character and kind of funnels out some of the ones that don't really want to do it as well. So
We've seen many. We've seen many over the years. Come in, win in the Contender Series, get a contract, 2 fights. Competition is just too tough, too early for them, and
yep.
they fizzle out. And man, it kind of sucks because if they went your route, regional scene, built themselves up, and then went into the UFC, they would have probably had a longer career, maybe 2 years, 3 years down the line. But they might not get that chance again because it's ruthless out here
Yep.
for a fighter.
Yep. It is. It is, and a lot of times and some fighters look at just padding their record too. A lot of fighters pad their record, but eventually you're gonna have to. Somebody's gonna call your bluff. So if you got a bunch of fights that are guys that are losing records or barely winning records, and once you hit these guys that they have some losses, but these are quality opponents, that's a rude awakening. And I feel like that's kind of what our fight's going to be like on September 17th. I've experienced losses. I know what it's like. Not saying that that's specifically going to be the reason why I'm going to win. But I've been here, and I think that I've faced tough opponents, and I've been tested, and I've faced tough opponents. In my opinion, tougher opponents than him, and so the good thing about it is September 17th, we get to figure out who's right. Yeah.
Exactly. You get to figure out the puzzle. Before signing a contract to fight compared to after the contract is signed, is there a different vibe in you that runs through you?
It is. The beginning, it's kind of like um, you're probably the more nervous, in my opinion, the most nervous you'd be as you are in the process of signing or getting, because you know what you're committing to. You know what it is what it is, regardless of how you really feel. So but for me, I sign it, and it's you get more and more focused and more like tuned in, And as you start training, the more you play it out in your head, the less nervous you get because you've put yourself in these situations a million times. At least in my case, in my experience, I play it out so much, and it ends up being less. And once you know you've done the best you can do in preparation, then there's not really much else you can do. So why worry?
You're right. I never thought about it like that. Like when you're signing the contract, you are committing to violence.
Yeah,
Like
and you know how hard it's going to be
yeah,
in preparation. So and when you're training outside, you're still working hard, but now you're specifically being focused on by your coaches, and so and you want to make them you want to be the best that you can be, and you know how good you can be. So in my eyes, I just always want to replicate how I train in the gym because I know I do well. So I just try to replicate that, and it's been working for me. So I plan to keep doing it.
there you go. Back to your opponent, Basharat. He debuted last March against Trevin Jones. I tout Trevin Jones very highly in that division. He's one of those guys coming up, prospect. There was a lot to learn, man. He won a unanimous decision, but it was 15 minutes of, a good back and forth exchanges. What were your impressions of that performance?
I thought the fight. I think the biggest swing, from my opinion, in the fight was the body shots that were landed. So Trevin kind of obviously gassed even faster, and he Basharat kind of took over. I think it was I don't remember exactly which rounds. I've only seen it once, so I think he won the first round, and Trevor either won the second or the third, but he won a round. It's one of those things where it almost is like I said, you take a guy that's undefeated, he had all finishes, and now you put him against a guy that we know is tough. So now it's going to be, you're going to see some character building, or either it's going to be character, depleting. But he did what he had to do. He won, and now it's our turn to get to fight. And I think the fight's going to go a lot different than that. But I'm expecting a tough fight either way.
Definitely. American Top Team is your home. Every year is different. Every training camp is different. Has there been anything you've altered in the past, let's say, in 2022 that has benefited you?
I think honestly the biggest thing is I worry about my rehydration more. I've been getting out in the sun more, um, just chilling more, and I think just relaxing more and understanding how important relaxing and recovery is. The older I get, the more I realize that it's very important. That's the biggest difference, and understanding that sometimes it's okay, depending on the situation, to maybe cut out a workout in order to recover to have a better tomorrow. So just learning how to make responsible decisions with my body, and that's really been the biggest, a lot of the biggest difference. And just the more I do this, the more I get focused, and the more I can feel myself becoming a complete fighter. And it's just a cool transformation to experience.
Yeah, those I think the top three that I've heard from fighters is like you said, the rehydration, which a lot of people don't focus on, SNC, and then the recovery part. You know what I mean? A lot of people talk about those as like things that a lot of fighters don't even implement until they get into the UFC, which is wild to me.
Yep. Yeah. So it's definitely, when you're young, like I said, I'm 30 years old. I'm not old, but like I feel the difference when I was, in my 20s, and it was when I first started fighting, and my routine of what I did every day before I moved down here and things like that. And it's just different, your body just changes, and you just have to adapt. But I've just learned that just because I rest a little more doesn't mean that I'm any less prepared. If I rest if I start to get lazy, that's a different thing. So I've learned that less, more committed trainings are sometimes better than a lot of ones where you're halfway in there. Does that make sense? So yeah. So
Since you've been at American Top Team, one of your main training partners has been Adriano Moraes, man. We talked about him. You've helped him in many camps. He's helped you in many camps. And I remember leading up to the Demetrius Johnson fight, the first one, we talked a lot about the fight and how he's doing, and he went in there and got the knockout. The
Yeah.
rematch, man, it's gonna be a much tougher fight. DJ is a legend for a reason. He's smart as hell. You know, after Adriano's knockout, what do you see in the rematch?
I honestly, the first fight, I thought Adriano was going to submit him. I thought that's what was going to be the case because it's so crazy how his jiu-jitsu is. It's ridiculous. You know, I've rolled with him a bunch, and I think his body compared to Demetrius's body in a grappling situation is a nightmare for him for Mighty Mouse. So I honestly thought he was going to submit him the first one, and I think this time he will submit him. But what I did like about the first fight is there was enough fight to say that Adriano was winning before he just caught him with the knee. So I really liked that. Felt good. You know, I feel like um, you know once you it's different. I guess once you felt someone, I think you know some people do better the next time, and I think they're both going to do better. But Adriano is going to be even better. You know. But he's great. He's a special athlete. So he definitely both of those guys are special athletes, obviously. So I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be a great fight, and you know, you guys are all preparing together. So for your fight, what type of fight do you foresee? How do you see yourself performing?
You know, I'm planning on going there and fighting, and doing everything I need to do. Fundamentally, whether we're standing up, I think even though he's a great striker, I think my defense is a lot better. So you know, a lot of it's going to come down to defense and in the striking exchanges. You know, if we clinch, that's fine too. I can clinch, I can wrestle, I can grapple. So wherever we end up, it's not a big cage in the apex, so we're going to meet each other pretty quick. And you know, I think I'm just going to be too much for him. My cardio is going to be too much. My pace, my strength, my power, and my skill, and I just think it's going to be you know a tough night for him.
One last thing, one last topic. TJ Dillashaw, he's gonna face Aljamain Sterling for the bantamweight title. Do you like this matchup? Do you think that was the fight to make for the belt?
I would say I'm trying to think of remember what numbers people were. So um, it was so Aljamain's a champ, then it was John, then two was who was two,
I believe Sanhagen was two,
and then
and then Jose
and then
Aldo, and you know,
Dillashaw
yeah,
was like
yeah, Dilla, yeah, he's up there. Like they're top five, of course.
uh-huh. I don't know, man. I mean, it's hard to deny, you know, Dillashaw when he was the champ and he um you know has come back into it
Hmm.
and he had a fight. So, but realistically, I would think he would need another. How many fights has he had since he was it just the Sandhagen?
Just the Sanhagen, which
Just
is
the Sand.
very close fight too.
Uh huh. It would have been cool to see maybe like Jan and Dillashaw, and then um I don't know, maybe Aldo or Sandhagen for the title. You know, like that seemed like that would have made a little more sense as far as the rankings and stuff go. But I don't know. But obviously I think it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be an interesting fight because it's going to be even though TJ Dillashaw can wrestle, I think it's going to be a grappler versus striker type affair. Obviously, Aljamain's going to want to get his back and backpack him, and he has the ability to do so. But TJ also is a good scrambler. That's going to be a situation where I think we're going to see where TJ Dillashaw hasn't really been in a situation where he's been grappled, at least as far as I can remember, against a really good grappler. That's going to attach to him pretty quick. So I'm excited for it.
Both guys are a wrestler, grapplers, you know, but they have developed these unique styles of striking. Aljamain's style is unique. I don't think
Yeah,
people
it is.
like
It
dissect
is.
it enough. You know what I mean? Like he'll kick you and punch you at the same time. Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, like it's weird. But and TJ, we've seen him, you know, put in masterful classes inside that octagon. Which style do you prefer to watch?
Um, I mean, it to me it doesn't matter because styles make fights in general. So you can have some. It doesn't matter what style someone has. They're matched up with somebody that's gonna give him a scrap, then it's gonna be a good fight. But Dillashaw is definitely he's interesting to watch. He moves a little funky, and it's gonna be some crazy scrambles and stuff. So I'd say I like Dillashaw's better. It's a little more dynamic, I would say. No, I wouldn't say dynamic. A little more unique. Just a little more unique, not dynamic. I'd say Aljamain's a little more dynamic because he grapples a little more. But yeah.
So are you picking Aljo to defend this belt?
I don't know that's a tough one because, like I said, I haven't really seen uh, Dillashaw really get not that I can remember like taken down and grappled much. So it's hard to pick. It's hard to pick for that one. But I'm gonna say Dillashaw. I think
Dillashaw,
he's gonna do enough. He's gonna know exactly what to do because he's been in this situation before, and maybe 5 rounds. I think it's gonna be kind of like a strike in point kind of thing.
yeah, I believe it's going to be in the scrambles. Whoever wins the scrambles are probably is going to win that fight. You know, what I mean, it's going to be very close fight. Anyways, back to you, Tony. September 17th, UFC Fight Night in Las Vegas. Thank you so much for the time, man. All the best in the fight, and get that streak going, and move up
Yes,
the
sir.
ranks.
Yes, sir. That's the goal. Just people ask me all the time. They text me and they say like, "How do you get ranked? Why are you not ranked?" or things like that. I'm like, well, I mean, the only thing I know to do is to just keep winning. I mean, if I keep winning and winning, that's all that I can worry about is the opponent that's currently in front of me, and eventually that opponent will have a number beside their name as long as I'm winning. So just gonna do my best to keep the streak going, and hopefully next year I'll get or at least I don't know by the at least the next year, beginning of next year, I get my opportunity to get someone that's either close to being either I'm getting closer and up there right on the edge, or